I mean, if you don't want to.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yep, no, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, welcome to everyone in the room for coming and attending our National Environmental Policy Act public meeting for the North of Lake Okeechobee Storage Reservoir Section 203 study, better known as LOCAR for the rest of us. My name is Jennifer Leeds. I'm with the South Florida Water Management District. I'm the Bureau Chief for our Ecosystem Restoration and Planning Group. And it is my great pleasure to introduce Mr. Ben Butler, our governing board member for the Water Management District. He represents Okeechobee. We're very fortunate to have him to do so. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Butler to give us opening remarks and to kick off this NEPA meeting for us. So, Mr. Butler.
Good deal. Thank you, Ms. Leeds. Look like we had a good crowd here in person today. A lot of good discussion for Q&A. Those that couldn't join us here, you missed out on some good discussion, but looks like we've got 53 folks online joining us there also. So we welcome you. Today, as Ms. Leeds said, we're here to look at the NEPA, or the National Environmental Policy Act, public meeting for Lake Okeechobee Component A Reservoir, or LOCAR, and to look at the draft environmental impact statement. The location of this proposed reservoir is in Highlands County. It's an above ground storage reservoir that is designed to store up to 200,000 acre feet of water north of Lake Okeechobee. Since 2000, when served for the Central Everglades or Comprehensive Everglades Restoration Plan was congressionally authorized, the storage feature north of Lake Okeechobee has always been envisioned. We have storage features in various stages of construction on the east, west, and south side of Lake Okeechobee, and this is the final piece that we've been missing. SERP was always designed to work in concert, and although this process has taken longer than anyone planned since 2000, progress made in each respective area supports efforts in others to deliver on the overall effort to restore South Florida's environment. Just to clarify that today we're talking LOCAR, the Section 203 study, and you may also hear the Lake Okeechobee Watershed Restoration Project. These are two separate projects. LOCAR is focused on above ground storage. LORP is focused on aquifer storage and recovery wells and wetland features, wetland restoration features. Today, we're talking LOCAR. In May, we had the initial kickoff and scoping meeting for LOCAR. At that time, we shared the process, the timeline, and the overall planning for an above ground storage feature north of Lake O. In August, we heard a project update where the tentatively selected plan was presented. And today, we will hear about the environmental impact statement. The statement is available on the Corps website, which will be given later in the meeting. And the comment period closes on the environmental impact statement December 7th this year. And if you have any questions after the meeting, don't hesitate to reach out to staff. More importantly, reach out to the project manager on this project, Liz Kaneha. Liz will get you set up and get your any of your questions answered. And you can find her contact information and all the information that's being presented here today on the Water Management District website, sfwmd.gov. on the LOCAR page, which can be found by going to put LOCAR to search window. Again, thank you for coming. Thank you for your interest and participation in this process. It is critical to its success. My hope that we can provide a clear explanation and that everyone will have an opportunity to participate in a meaningful way to ensure that this project is a success. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to the project manager for the district, Ms. Liz Kaneha.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. As Ben said, I'm Liz Kaneha, the project manager of LOCAR. I'm a lead project manager in the Ecosystem Restoration and Capital Projects Division at the South Florida Water Management District. So just a reminder what exactly a 203 feasibility study is. This is a little bit different than our typical planning efforts because it allows the non-federal sponsor, which is the South Florida Water Management District, to conduct a feasibility study and environmental impact statement under the section 203 of the Federal Water Resources Development Act. The district is taking the lead on the feasibility study, which includes the coordination, modeling, and report preparation, but the report must also be technical and policy compliant with the federal planning process, which is why we have been working with our federal partner, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, to coordinate these activities. So the district intends to transmit the final feasibility report to the Assistant Secretary of the Army, or ASA, for transmission to the Congress for authorization. So once this project is approved, it will be part of the SERP program. So this graphic here shows the LOCAR study area. The study area is positioned directly north of Lake Okeechobee and just south of the Kissimmee, Orlando area. The study area is outlined in turquoise, and it encompasses 4 different sub-watersheds, which is the Fish Eating Creek, the Indian Prairie, and the Taylor Creek Nub and Slough watershed, and then also drainage basins S65D and S65E of the Lower Kissimmee sub-watershed. So as Ben had discussed, this study area does look similar to the Lake Okeechobee Watershed Restoration Project, but they are 2 different projects. And as he said, we're focusing on just looking at above ground storage north of Lake Okeechobee. And the LORT project is focusing on wetland restoration as well as aquifer storage and recovery wells. So the goal of the Lake Okeechobee Component A reservoir is to provide approximately 200,000 acre feet of storage north of Lake Okeechobee. The purpose is to store water during wet periods or when there's excess water in the system, and later use the water during dry periods when Lake Okeechobee water levels are low. The increased storage capacity would help keep the lake within the ecological preferred band and benefit the lake's ecosystem. The project would also benefit the Caloosahatchee and St. Lucie estuaries to help reduce those discharges from the lake that impact their ecosystems. So in general, the project will keep water in the system for environmental and water supply uses. Prior to selecting the tentatively selected plan, rough order magnitude cost estimates and modeling was performed for the different alternatives to identify the TSP. For LOCAR, the proposed TSP that we're now referring to as the recommended plan is alternative 4. It's approximately 12,000 acres in size and will have an average storage water depth of 18 feet. And it will get to that goal of 200,000 acre feet of storage. The length of the perimeter dam, which goes around the outside of the feature, is approximately 18 miles. And the divider between the 2 cells, the length of that dam is approximately 2.7 miles. So the design incorporates 2 cells, which is added for safety and to also improve flexibility for operations and maintenance. And the 2 cells will be connected by open culverts to move water between them. There will also be 2 inflow pump stations, which is denoted on this slide by the PS, which is just by S84. And that pump station is going to pump water upstream the C41A canal towards the other pump station, which is located just at the southeast corner of the feature. And that pump station will pump water into the reservoir. And those pump stations will both be estimated to be activated at 1500 CFS. There will be a gravity back to the system via the C41A canal by 2 gated structures totaling 3,000 CFS. The location of the 2 reservoir outflow culverts allows for water to be released from the reservoir into the C41A canal, either upstream or downstream of the S83 feature. And it's going to allow water to be conveyed to the Indian Prairie subwatershed via the C41A, the C41, C39A, C40, or the C38 canal back to Lake Okeechobee. And as I mentioned, there's also a perimeter canal that would be able to collect stormwater around this feature. And the seepage water would be able to be pumped back into the reservoir. The reservoir is being designed to current Army Corps of Engineer dam safety requirements. and ultimately monitored by a dam safety program. So this incorporates the Corps' 3 Rs, which are robust, redundant, and resilient design to meet modern dam safety design criteria. The design will be subject to a risk assessment review process by the Corps of Engineers Center of Excellence for Dam Safety to maintain flood protection and water supply. The reservoir will also be designed for extreme storm events, including a PMP, which is designed for 54 inches of rainfall and can also control waves in the reservoir at a Category 5 storm. The design will incorporate recreation features as well, and they may include boat ramps, nature areas, and passive use features. So this right here is what a typical cross-section of a dam looks like. So the height of the dam is estimated to be at 66 feet NAVD, which means the dam will be approximately 33 to 34 feet tall. The reservoir will have an interior surface protected with soil cement, and will also have a bentonite seepage cutoff wall to control seepage and avoid impacts to neighboring water levels. The reservoir will have an internal seepage management system incorporated within the bankment. And as I mentioned before, the reservoir will have that perimeter canal, which will allow it to capture excess seepage and return water back to the reservoir. For LOCAR, we use the regional basin models or the RSM models that are approved for SERP, and they include the recover performance metrics. To help show some of the effects of storage, several scenarios were produced to demonstrate hydrology changes as storage is added to the system. The existing condition baseline is the current condition, which includes existing projects or planned infrastructure. The projected future without scenario includes the projected future conditions without the projects. And for the future with the project, that's referred to as LOCAR, which is the blue graphic. It looks to me, 60 feet. Sorry. Okay, so moving back to the benefits of the lake. So to measure the benefits of the lake, we rely on stage duration curves to visually show the benefits to the lake with the addition of LOCAR. So what we see with the addition of LOCAR is that there's improvement at the extreme stage. So we spend less time at this stage. It decreases from 10% to 2% at the high stage. And at the low end, we also see less time in the extreme low stages. So overall, what we're doing is we're flattening the curve and we're minimizing the amount of time we're at both these extreme high and extreme low events. So what's that? By flattening the curve, we're actually keeping the lake within the ecological preferred band. For LOCAR, we use the recover salinity envelope performance measures to determine the St. Lucie estuary benefits. So the map on this screen shows what the model salinity flow regimes look like. So stress events are for St. Lucie are considered as flows between 1400 and 1700 CFS. And these are Lake Okeechobee driven releases. And what we look for is fewer events are better. So with the existing baseline, what we saw was 30 stressful events occur. And with the addition of LOCAR, there were only 20 events. So that shows a 33% decrease and 10 fewer events. For the damaging flows, these are flows that are categorized as greater than 1700 CFS, and they're also considered Lake Okeechobee driven releases. And so what we look for is fewer events is better. So with the existing condition baseline, we saw 41 stressful events occur. And with the addition of LOCAR, it was reduced to 29 events, showing a 30% decrease and 12 fewer events. So overall, what we saw is LOCAR reduces the low salinity impacts downstream. So for the Caloosahatchee estuary, we use the same methodology, which is the recover salinity envelope performance measures to determine the benefits. For stress flow events in the Caloosahatchee, It's categorized as flows between 2100 and 2600 CFS, and these are also Lake Okeechobee driven releases. And looking for, again, fewer events is better. So with the existing condition baseline, we saw 77 stressful events occur. And with the addition of LOCAR, it was reduced to 42 events, showing a 45% decrease and 35 fewer events. For damaging flow events in the Caloosahatchee, it's categorized as flows greater than 2600 CFS. And these also are Lake Okeechobee driven releases. So we're looking for fewer events. With the existing condition baseline, we saw that there were 86 stressful events that occurred. And with the addition of LOCAR, there were only 55 events. So that shows a 36% decrease and 31 fewer events. So overall, with the addition of LOCAR, it reduces the Lake Okeechobee driven salinity impacts to oysters in the lower estuary and the San Carlos Bay area. When evaluating LOCAR for water supply, we look for reductions in water supply cutbacks. So we looked at the previous years of drought over the period of record and compared the project conditions to the existing condition baseline and the future without the project. So the existing conditions include the C44 reservoir project, which is shown in blue. And the future without the project includes the C44 project, the C43 and EAA project. And that's shown by the red bar. And then LOCAR provides added storage north of the lake, which is shown by the green bar on the map. So what we saw overall was that there were less water supply cutbacks with the addition of LOCAR. So what that means is it's providing more water supply reliability for water users of the Lake Okeechobee service area. So what we have here is our project timeline. Just to remind everybody, this is about a year planning process. We kicked off the project back in February. We had our first NEPA scoping meeting back in April. We announced our tentatively selected plan in August of 23. During that time from August to till now, we were working on the draft EIS or the environmental impact statement. So that was posted in the public register on Monday, October 23rd. And as Ben had said, we're accepting public comment on that document until December 3rd. And between December and January, we're going to be modifying the report as needed and completing that final EIS in January and submitting it to the ASA in February. And also after it's submitted to the ASA, it'll be submitted to Congress. So overall, what we're targeting is a WRDA 2024 project. So we're seeking authorization this next coming year. And here is the link to our webpage for LOCAR. As Ben had mentioned, we have lots of information on our webpage about past engagements, including former presentations. You can also visit our YouTube channel, which has several of our presentations on there for the LOCAR project. I think that's it. I'll hand it over to Dr. Gretchen Ellinger, which will go over the NEPA process.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Gretchen Ellinger. I am the Environmental Branch Chief of the Planning Division for the Corps of Engineers out of Jacksonville. And as Liz explained, this is a Section 203 study. So the Water Management District is doing the feasibility study, but there are several actions such as the National Environmental Policy Act that are inherently federal actions. And so we are the federal agency that is conducting those actions. So what is the National Environmental Policy Act? NEPA is the federal law that requires federal agencies to consider all the environmental impacts or effects of any proposed federal action. So they can be major federal actions that have, an impact on the quality of the human environment. We have to look at them, even if it's not a significant impact, we need to look at the impacts, both positive and adverse for any of our actions. And so under NEPA, we are here to be transparent and show, what we've looked at and allow the public to look at our proposals, look at our plans. We consult with state agencies, other federal resource agencies, the tribes, to provide, to get input from those groups on our project, and then to coordinate with other agencies as well. So NEPA is kind of like the umbrella that facilitates all project compliance with many environmental laws and regulations. So in our draft environmental impact statement, which is the NEPA document, we have our compliance for this project, looking at all the alternatives, and then the preferred alternative that we're looking at, and then how the action complies with all these federal laws, ranging from Clean Water Act, Clean Air Act, Endangered Species Act, Coastal Zone Management Act, all of the environmental laws and regulations. And so many of the factors that we looked at in detail in the draft environmental impact statement include aesthetics, air quality, environmental justice, fish and wildlife resource, recreation, socioeconomics, threatened and endangered species. And we've looked at these factors for the whole array of alternatives. And this presentation is focused on the preferred alternative moving forward, but the draft environmental impact statement does have that comparison between the array of alternatives that were considered and then how the preferred alternative was selected. And as Liz kind of showed in a previous slide, kind of the timeline of the project, this is the timeline for a NEPA document. And again, this is the same process we have for all federal actions. We identify the federal action, we had a scoping meeting, a couple of scoping meetings, and that's where we said, okay, here's what we're looking to do, here's the problems we're trying to solve, got input from the public, then we generated the draft document, and here we are providing that document for public review. You have 45 days to review the document, provide comments. You can provide comments today at this meeting, online, and then at the end, I'll show you there's an email address you can send comments to through December 7th. There was a little bit of a snafu with the Federal Register, so it was supposed to be published on last Friday. Federal Register had some sort of glitch, so nothing was published on Friday, so it got published on Monday. So that's why the dates may have changed a little bit from what was posted, but it is December 7th is the full 45 days. So we'll get all those comments from the public, from state and other agencies and the tribes. Consider all those comments, and then we'll have the revised document, and that will go out again as the final EIS to then be signed and added to the Section 203 feasibility study to go to the Assistant Secretary of the Army's office and then to Congress. So as we've said, this is different than a lot of than all the other CERT projects that some of you may have been involved with, because it is a Section 203. So the Water Management District prepared the study, the feasibility study, to evaluate the effects. We, the Corps of Engineers, just evaluated under NEPA the actions. So the alternatives and then the selection of the preferred alternative. So all the plan formulation stuff was done by the Water Management District, and we are doing the federal aspect of the environmental impact statement and all the consultations. So we've posted that for public review. This is a very sensitive mouse. So the purpose of the draft environmental impact statement is to support the Assistant Secretaries of the Army's review of the decision in the feasibility study that's prepared by the Water Management District. So the draft EIS evaluates the alternatives that are designed to provide that above ground storage north of the lake. And so we consider the alternatives and evaluated those alternatives on the improvements to the quantity, timing, and distribution of water to help manage lake O levels. So how do we analyze all these different factors? Well, we look at considerations for each different these categories. So we have the type of effect. Is it a direct effect? indirect effect or a cumulative effect. So over time, you have different projects, different things going on. What is the cumulative effects to the different resources over time? The duration, is it a short-term or a long-term impact? And then the degree of the effect. So, and this can be both beneficial or adverse. So no effect, negligible, minor, major, or moderate. So that's how we go about making our determinations in the EIS. So we considered, the whole host of resources, and this is just kind of a snapshot of some of the effects that are in the environmental impact statement. You have some minor to major impacts to the landscape and to the vegetative communities. Obviously, you're creating a reservoir, so you're changing that land from, whatever the grazing and pastures is now into a reservoir. We have our threatened and endangered species. We are, in formal consultation with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service on several of their species. You have beneficial effects to hydrology, but water management resources. So as you can see, if you want to, as you review the draft EIS, each of these categories are covered for the array of alternatives as well as the preferred alternative. And then we have ongoing coordination with our other agencies on consultations for Fish and Wildlife, for the Clean Water Act, National Historic Preservation Act, and others. So, working through the environmental impact statement, we have, may affect determinations for our formal consultation. Currently, we're working with Fish and Wildlife to get their draft biological opinion, working specifically on caracara and panther habitat. And we should be getting a draft biological opinion from them, which will then be finalized before the completion of the final environmental impact statement, because we need to have our consultations completed in order for the environmental impact statement to be signed and added to this feasibility study. Looking at kind of big picture, looking at, watershed vegetation and, the communities, we do have some impacts from having this reservoir in terms of habitat fragmentation. But this location of this reservoir compared to the alternatives avoids some high quality habitat. And then, the benefit of this project is really looking at, the water levels and providing storage north of the lake, so we can have, more time the lake is in that beneficial stage, and our, releases out to the estuaries. So that's where the benefits of this project are coming into play to fit the broader SERP goals, because once this is approved, then it does become a SERP project. So as I said, the document is out for public review. If you do want a paper copy, it is at the Highlands County Library that you can go and read a paper copy of it if you would like. You can also go to this link and download the PDF document. We will be taking comments again through December 7th. You can email locar@usa.army.mil, or you can write your comments on a sheet of paper and mail them to me. Or there are comment cards at each of the tables. You're more than welcome to write your comments now and hand them in. And because this is our, our public meeting, we're more than welcome to take your verbal comments at this time or in the Q&A if you are online. And as Liz said, more information is available at the Water Management District page. And I think that is it. Yes. So I'll leave that screen up and we can open it up for comments if people have signed up for comments.
So our first commenter will be Mr. Newton Cook.
Found that out the hard way. People that know me know, but I've been fighting to get storage in north of the lake for at least 20 years. It's the only way that we can improve the system. Lake Okeechobee is the heart, and 97% of everything goes in Lake Okeechobee. Comes right by where we're sitting here. But what I don't always worry about is expectations that are way above the actual fact. That is, grab the ball and run with the EAA2 reservoir, where people call it the crown jewel of Everglades restoration, of course it's not. It's not even. Very important, quite frankly. 200,000 acre feet is what this reservoir is going to hold. It's never an empty reservoir. If it's an empty reservoir, you got problems. If it was empty, and we're sitting here today, the lake's 16.4 feet. And just a regular hurricane came, like it happens in November. It would take 200,000 acre feet into that reservoir. The lake would stay at 16.4 feet. As if the reservoir wasn't even there. And the lake at 16.4 feet with a hurricane coming is a lake that's going to have to be drained out to St. Lucie to Caloosahatchee in large quantities. Because it's a kind of a dirty little secret. The maximum amount of water can be sent south out of Lake Okeechobee is 6,000 CFS. During Irma, 30,000 CFS came right by this town into the lake. In January 2016, 18,000 CFS came right by this town into the lake. So this reservoir is a help, and it's needed badly. And models are wonderful, but models don't tell you what Mother Nature is going to do to you. So anyone that believes this reservoir is going to stop or even have any important effect on discharges to the St. Lucie and the Caloosahatchee, or to the fact that Lake O is way too high, we're killing all the vegetation, we're ruining the lake today. And Lonesome is the reason why, because it's been managed under Lonesome. So I want all this. I support it 100%. United Waterfowlers, everybody I know supports it in terms of storage north of the lake. But let's not turn this into another one of those situations like EA2, where people really believe it's going to make a big difference, particularly in the estuaries. Thank you.
All right. Any other public comments in the room? Please state your name.
David Hazeleaf. First of all, thank you for looking for, believe it or not, I'm with you. Contrary to where I usually stand, but thank you for looking for water storage north of the lake. We've asked that forever. You know, when you talked about the 60-foot retaining wall, you know, for projects 18 feet above ground level, and then you still showed a seepage ditch. But the project you want to do in Okeechobee County, at one time in the courthouse, in the meeting room at the courthouse, they told us that it was going to be 4 feet above ground level with no retaining wall and a seepage ditch. So if a retaining wall won't stop the seepage, what would stop it on this project? But that's okay. That's another subject. But the water you're doing, you're bringing in, you told me one of the last times we talked, you need to bring it from Lake Okeechobee. We appreciate that. But it'll also bring it from the discharge from the canal that's, what's the canal that's wanting to, Ben, what's the number of the canal out here at Lake? 41? 41A. It will also take that water to this project. So why not? You have room there for 6 STAs around this project, and you can discharge your water through there for free. So why impact Okeechobee County, you know, impact our airport airspace with the birds, impact our residents next door for possible flooding. And we know from what you've seen here that we will have seepage there. The septic tanks won't work. So why not do it here where it's in the middle of nowhere? pardon me, Ben, I know you and Mr. Butler, you don't want to, I'm not taking away from your, yeah, we appreciate you being in Highlands County, but it is kind of remote. There's no places, no subdivisions right around it. So, and you can do it for free other than the cost of building the facility. But nobody wants to address that part. Thank you.
Anyone else with public comment?
I guess I hadn't got the voice I used to have. All right, one of your slides back there under the hydrology, and it right there, and the says beneficial. Now, as a landowner that is pretty close on the north side of this proposed storage, when you say beneficial, already with the C-38 restoration, we've seen the hydrology probably 4 miles on going out on both sides of the Kissimmee Valley, when we are experiencing the higher water level, which was only, what, 18, 24, not over 30 inches above normal, above the old standard from the original C-38 27-foot elevation. We're already seeing a difference in hydrology. So how is this project going to be beneficial to the landowners to the east, north, or south? Of course, south, you've got the C-41 to pick it up. That's
So,
the first question.
so for the analysis that we do, it's comparing just this federal action. So it's not looking at the hydrology, compared of the whole watershed. It's looking at what it is currently, what it's going to be without this project, and then with the project. So that difference between without the project and with the project is where we're seeing that beneficial hydrology. So it's not based on, what's going on in the river now and how it's looking at, it's compared just the effects of this action.
Okay, second question, the pump stations, the inputs are S83 and S84. So I presume that you're going to have the ability to with this to take water out of the Kissimmee River area and take it back to this storage.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know who to ask.
Want to make sure, since we're a part of the NEPA part of it, that I could address your question. So,
Can you put the
yeah,
diagram up that shows the project area? Yeah, so you've got the,
okay.
down there with the S84.
So
And you're
here-
showing water flow in the C-41 going both directions there.
Yes. Yes, so the structure that we have here, the S65E, the southernmost structure on the
Yes.
Kissimmee River. Anything south of that going into Lake Okeechobee is considered Lake Okeechobee water.
Yes,
So we are going to have the ability to pull water. This square is actually a little bit misrepresented. It's a little bit further up. But the S84 will be turned into a pump station as well as a spillway. And so we'll have the ability to pull water from the lake and move it up the C-41 until we hit this other square here that has a PS for pump station and
yes.
put that water up into the reservoir. We can
Alright.
then discharge water out and bring it back down the C-41A towards the lake, and it will go over the spillway of the S-84 and then down into Lake Okeechobee.
Looks a little bit like my farm. We chase stormwater and wastewater around in circles.
Yeah.
But the S-84 would pull out of the lake side of
Yes,
65E,
yes,
not the upside.
correct.
Okay. All right. In the event of a catastrophe on the proposed structure, and I'm impressed with the wall that you've got in the dike. But I'm sure I'm going to be impressed with the cost of it. If you had a catastrophe and water gets dumped out of this reservoir into the 41, how quickly are you going to be able to release that water and get it back into lake level to keep from flooding surrounding areas?
Yeah, so one of the things that we're looking at as a part of that analysis is increasing the amount of water that can go through the C41A and through the S-84 and back down to the lake.
Mhm.
So that's part of the analysis that we do to ensure that the amount of water that can come out of the reservoir is adequately sized. I think right now we can discharge 3,000 CFS, and that the downstream structures can also pass that water down and into the lake.
Okay. All right, and of course, we're gonna displace a lot of upland wildlife on anything that's that big. You're talking about deer, turkey, little burying owls. We've got those in our fields just north of there. What in the panther? I mean, we've seen panthers right there just east of where this proposed dike system is. And we talk about the importance of a wildlife corridor. What are we doing to improve the wildlife corridor around this structure?
Well, as Gretchen pointed out, that's one of the reasons why we consult with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to get their biological opinion. And we work with them to develop, like right now, we're working with them to develop a panther mitigation plan to address this exact question.
Okay. Very good. Now, I know this is early, but somebody has got to have an estimated cost for what you perceive this project to be. What ballpark are we in now? Yeah, you can take it.
It's in the draft report, right? Yeah, so
It's,
yeah, so right now, I would say the cost estimate is in a range of around $3 to $3.3 billion. We worked that out ahead of
Okay,
time.
now, so we've got a lot of people in South Florida. Who is going to pay this 35 bill?
So
How are we
once,
taxing to pay for it?
so this will end up being a joint project between the state of Florida and the federal government. And so it will be handled either in federal or state appropriations
Okay, and I,
at the time that it becomes authorized. So
Okay.
first, we need to get the project authorized before we actually seek to put it into our budget to get appropriations and get the funding for it.
so it's the taxpayers of Florida and federal taxpayers, and of course, we all pay taxes in both directions. Okay. Now, I agree with Mr. Cook though on the fact of having storage. But when you get a pond this big, and I think about 18 feet above natural ground, that is a lot of water above my head if anything goes wrong. And it comes right down past my farm and my house, headed to the river. And I just want to be sure that we've got plenty of safeguards designed into this. The cost should not be a problem if we're going to have this many people in South Florida. South Florida has a people problem. I've gotten damn tired of having cows and row crops and sugarcane blamed for everything environmentally wrong in Florida. And it is a people problem. Okay, I'll give up the mic. Do what now? Yeah, no, yeah. No, I said Bill. Yeah, yeah, I mean, that's, that's, sure, that's pocket change for somebody, not for me. But no, I agree with you. Storage on top is good.
Yeah, we have to. It's ever forgot.
Sorry.
Here.
It's always I hate to say the word comical to listen to the numbers. I mean, talking $4 billion, C-43 is a couple of billion here, the EAA is a couple of billion there. Do you know all of that is to prevent water from getting to the Tamiami Trail? Because at the Tamiami Trail, there's a restriction that you can't put more than 7,000 CFS under it. It's called the Cape Sable Seaside Sparrow, endangered species. And if you can't put but 7,000 CFS under the Tamiami Trail, everything's blocked all the way back to Orlando. And we're building all these reservoirs. We're doing all this work. We're drowning the lake. And we have been doing it for over 20 years because of a bird that nobody hardly can find. Now, that's the fact. Until we can put 18,500 CFS 24/7, 365 under the Tamiami Trail, we will continue to spend billions of dollars, putting a lot of Band-Aids, costly Band-Aids, trying to move the water from Orlando to Florida Bay.
Okay, any other public comment from anyone in the room?
Okay, we have a comment in the Q&A from Mr. Bill Eggers. It says, if the project is approved, how will the agreement with the landowners be designed? Will the land be purchased, leased, et cetera, or will it be just an environmental services contract with the landowner retaining fee simple interest? Will the landowner continue to retain any rights or receive continuous payments for environmental services? Because this will be a CERT project, we will own the project in fee. It will not be in environmental services, payment for environmental services.
Right, any more comments in the room or online? Nope. All right, well, thank you everyone for coming this afternoon. And again, the comment period is open through December 7th. And feel free to send emails or mail or leave your written comments here before you leave. So thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon.